Here in Vegas, they were prepared ahead of time to work on a project for a specific team, and our job over the last 48 hours was to connect our students with those industry professionals. And we did a combination of meeting them at the gymnasium, or they could free up their schedules and come to a hotel, or the kids would go to their hotels. And the big deal with that is, a lot of times you're in the classroom, that's kind of a lot in theory, but to really see the real world people behind it and examples, I think that, it just speaks for itself, just really powerful for the kids to have some meaningful connections. And those connections are in a lot of ways just a start of getting to know someone in the industry, exchanging contact information, and literally, making that connection that person I just met with is on an NBA bench or is the coach of an NBA team. And I got to spend a half hour to an hour with that person. What they can expect out of this is a fun experience where they literally can see the other side of sports in a non-playing way.
If any of this excites you or resonates with you, come join our program. It's free for all students.
Come join Team to learn and discover together the future opportunities at the intersection of technology and sports.
It was a doorway to what I really want to do in my career. So it set a good foundation for me. Coming into this, before I started Team, I had no idea what I wanted to do. So this kind of saved me, yeah.
What's good, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Tap In the Show. Today's guest, man, is a good one for y'all, man. A Cal alum, academic All-American, as he would say. Co-founder of Team. My man, Anwar McQueen. How you doing, man?
Good. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Hey, no problem, man. I appreciate you giving us a little bit of your time, man, to come by, sharing your story, and I'm sure this is gonna be a real treat for everybody, man.
Yeah, no, excited to answer any all questions. There were no prearrangements, so whatever you want to ask, I'm happy to answer.
All good, man. I guess the first thing I just want to start off with, my man, is tell us a little bit about your background. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like where you from and just how you became to be, Anwar today.
Yeah, so the elevator pitch, if you will. Born and raised from Washington, D.C., obviously got into basketball when I was about 8, playing AAU ball, which they call today.
Yeah,
but before that, this was pre-travel ball or whatever. This was where we had to go on national trips. It was about, doing car washes in the neighborhood, raising money that way. We didn't have no shoe deals, but we were talented enough, man. We would take our talents outside of D.C. and kind of get with people. So I like to preface that to say that was my first insight into okay, I could possibly go to college through hoop, if that makes sense.
Right.
I was like, I wasn't full of, none of us was, but I definitely wasn't full of myself, really grounded with good family and mentors. But that was my first peak that hoop could be a way out for me. So because I had that good mentoring and coachings, I went to proper high schools. So I went to a high school on the East Coast called St. Albans School for Boys, and to bring it fast forward, that reminds me a lot of Head Royce here in Oakland, right? Up in the hill, but in D.C., surrounded by the city.
Okay.
And really had that same type of socioeconomic or demographic. But I was exceptional student athlete at St. Albans, and that got my academic stuff in order, if you will, and so. I kind of had to pick a litter coming out of high school of what I wanted to do college-wise. So I chose Cal Berkeley because I had extended family that used to spend their summers out here on the West Coast in San Pedro, California. And most people don't know where San Pedro is,
I don't know.
But really close to Long Beach. I mean, that's kind of, So tucked away, but you can kind of get around.
Right. Okay. Cool.
So I came out to L.A. for the first time. I was like, okay, if maybe, right? And then just like any person being in California, you want to kind of figure out what California is really about.
Right.
So consecutive summers coming out to California and being recruited during that time in high school. Just started taking unofficial visits up and down the coast. One of my first unofficial visits was UCLA, and I was like,
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was my dream school, UCLA. I feel like that's the spot to be. I feel.
So I didn't think it could get better than UCLA. I kept going up the coast, went to Santa Barbara, was like, yeah, get me a bike, be on the beach.
Beach cruiser.
Yeah, like, Santa Barbara, they had this, I think to this day they still call that gym the Thunderdome. So, Thunder meter.
Right.
And they did a good job on that little visit. Like, man, can you see yourself, getting this meter to go?
Got like the Scantron, like
yeah.
the Scantrons up there.
Crowd. I was like, yeah, okay. And then kept coming up the coast, checked out Stanford. That was kind of interesting, but I was like, man, that reminds me so much of my high school, just Palo Alto where the campus was. Right. And I remember getting driven around on my visit to Stanford with a coach on a golf cart. And on a golf cart, I was like, man, this is I don't play golf. Then when I came to Cal, this is all unofficial. It just hit home a lot of ways. So just Berkeley or what it was. I vividly remember visiting at nighttime. Was with my brother at the time, and what struck me about Cal was it was a cosmopolitan environment.
Yeah.
I wasn't troubled by this, but I remember walking down Telegraph Avenue, people fighting and stuff. I'm like, man, this is this cool.
I don't mind this. I don't mind it.
Close enough for home. So I like telling that story that way because, as far as I was concerned, those were my California options as I went back.
Right. I think you described them pretty well.
Yeah, kept hooping, and just if I had the chance to get out to California, I wanted to do that. Mm-hmm. But what really got me to focus on California just for school was at my high school, he was a year ahead of me, Jonathan Ogden. He's a all-pro, retired Hall of Famer. He shocked the world leaving our high school coming to UCLA. So I remember coming out to visit him and was like, yeah, if I get any inclination of California, you can sign me up. So followed his footsteps, meaning coming to the West Coast, and got a chance to get a scholarship to play basketball at Cal Berkeley, and so obviously that supported my upbringing. Great academic institution, and the program was just a national program because of the recruitment of Jason Kidd in particular. Local Oakland native. Wow. Decided to stay home, and he literally had Cal on fire. Right. I was like in high school, like, man, that dude can hoop, whatever. But kind of followed his footsteps in a lot of ways. Had a chance to play in the local McDonald's All-American game, and I would tell Jason if he was sitting here, I got the MVP. He did not the year he played.
You throw that in his face?
Yeah. So it was just kind of cool to kind of play with the best of the best at that time, and hold your own, if you will. Yeah. So you're young and brazen a little bit. It don't matter where you playing. Just let's go. So, but bringing it back to the team part, we had tremendous success. It was an AAU program, and we were called the Kingman Pythons. And I say that because most people think of DC AAU ball starting out with a very prestigious program called DC Assault, and that's where the Kevin Durant's and all those. So we are connected, but I think we were the pioneers.
Yeah, okay.
If I could say so. So some notable peoples that came out of our program, not including myself, I should say, would be Steve Francis. Would probably be like the headliner. Okay. And obviously everybody knows what type of career he had coming out of it, but. Steve's in Tex away, and he's don't hold us against. He's a fellow Cowboy fan, so but we all came from the same little AAU program, if you will. So getting that ability to be recruited, come out to the West Coast, Cal just made a lot of sense. Right. Took an official visit, and the backstory with the official visit was Todd Bozeman. He was the assistant coach at the time, and this would have been my senior year in high school, and Cal ended up firing the current head coach, and he became the interim head coach, and he really wanted to, connect his backcourt, if you want to call it that. And it looks like you were a guard at one point too, like you wanted the East Coast, backcourt, if you will.
I heard the East Coast guards at. That's where the guards at.
If I could say so, yeah, but I had to show the left coast some love. But making out to the West Coast with Coach Bozeman wanting to come back to recruit the East Coast, it was just a dream come true in a lot of ways, because I knew I was comfortable going to California, even though that was 3,000 miles away. But to have a legitimate, all right, sign here, and you have it. Right. Where do I sign? And, taking on that, scholarship, it was probably the best 4 years of my life.
Wow.
the athletic success, second to none. We competed for championships, went to an NCAA tournament 3 out of 4 years, had a deep run with the Sweet 16, and just played with, future Hall of Famers, but great people, and I'll get to that later, of them being great people because, you got to look at everybody's body of work. Right. Jason comes to mind just being an outstanding athlete, but he's done made that transition, been a successful coach, won a championship as a player and a coach. Another teammate comes to mind is Shareef Abdur-Rahim, second pick in the league, now president of the G League. And then I say my white brother, Sean Marks, he's the general manager of the Nets right now.
Wow.
So, and we're all still connected, as friends and family. And so, I've just learned so much just being associated with those guys, part of their success, if you will, but bringing it full circle that we all still support each other, and I'm finding more and more that's rare.
Right.
Some people get successful and just kind of, break off contact. Those guys have not.
I think it's that basketball bond too, though.
Yeah.
I think that's really what it's like the real glue to everything. It's like, building strong connections, but the basketball bond is like no other. You got we fight with each other, for each other. You know what I mean? So it just, like you said, come back full circle, and it's good to see that you still got like long-term connections from the basketball, from basketball. You know what I mean? So because I do as well. You know what I mean? Still got a lot of friends that I hang out with today that met through basketball. You know what I mean? So that's a great connection.
No, absolutely.
Yeah. So I seen couple of your highlights, and I seen you knocking down a couple of threes, like back-to-back threes. I believe you guys were playing Arizona, and I was like, oh, he's a 3-point specialist, huh?
Well,
is that your go-to? Is that your claim to fame, I should say?
Actually, no, believe it or not. So we had a competitive team, and you can imagine, you gotta figure out how you're going to compete, be on the floor, and what I figured out right away was, look, if I had to put like the bigger picture in the picture, like Jason brought his passing and leadership to the table. Lamar Mary was just an All-America scoring. I mean, we had firepower on offense. Not to say any of those guys didn't want to play D, but I was like, you know what? Let me do some of that dirty work. And so I was able to find, even as a freshman, just find my niche. And to fast forward to the Arizona game, it was at McHale Center. They had won 93 games in a row at home. We were the underdogs going in. And I got to start for the first time. And I'll never forget, just being nervous to shoot around, just don't mess up and shoot around, get a yuck out this.
He missed me, shot that shoot around, it might take me out of the starting lineup.
Just do everything right. Don't give a coach a reason to, bench you. But it was kind of cool, to put my homies back on alert. D say, yo, turn it on, your boy gonna be on. Right. And of course, I remember, just jump ball, shaking hands and stuff. And Arizona must have got the word I was starting, because the very first play, they cleared it out for Damon Stoudemire. Like, man, go to work on this rookie.
Oh, nah.
So, it was fight or flight, But, my nervousness was definitely evident early. Shot a couple of air balls, and coach was like, bro, you got to sit over here, man. Like, you can't support this air ball stuff. So I got my second chance within that game and just settled in and, I'm a hooper, right? So, what do we need to do to win? So I still had the assignment of Damon and Khalid, but I had Jason, as a backcourt mate. So, I had to match some of that.
Right.
But no, that particular game, I had some opportunities to knock down some open shots. And like anything else, you get confidence in your reps.
Right.
I wasn't afraid to shoot the big shot or the big three. And, and that helped us win that game. So, yeah.
That's what's up, man. So you coming from the East Coast, after, playing basketball, what made you want to stay, in Oakland or in the Bay Area, I should say?
Yeah, so that wasn't an automatic choice, but I think, maybe some of the stuff you shared about you going to extension of high school to junior colleges and keep playing. That's when I got to know a lot of people those 4 years at Cal. But I wanted to play like everybody else, I didn't come this far to just stop after my last game. So I ended up playing overseas for 2 years, but before going over the seas, I ended up getting cut by the Trailblazers. So That's why I don't cheer for Portland this day, or let me tell it. But no, it was a cool experience to get into that mini camp, and had a 2-year career overseas. And like, you know that I call it the overseas workflow. You want to hoop wherever you can, find open runs, and just, you want to just keep getting those contracts, if you will. So I was in Marin at the Drake men's basketball league, and I met this young man from he ended up playing for me, but he was going to be a senior at Redwood High School, and he was like, "Hey man, I know you played at Cal. Would you come check out my game and just see if I'm a D1 prospect?" And so I'm not into that dream killing stuff. I was like, "Man, sure, man. Just tell me where you're gonna play." And of course, the game's in San Jose. I'm like,
"Oh man, the long
really
area."
Gave the young man my word, right? I was like, "Man, okay."
You gotta pull up now.
I gotta figure it out. But man, just like random trip going to see him play. His coach at the time, knew of me, I should say. It was like, "Hey man, he told me you were coming, and you want to sit on the bench." And it was just like,
yeah.
How did I go from this to that?
Right.
Sat on the bench, and I enjoyed coaching. I know that's crazy. Like, I was like, man, this is.
You coached that game when you sat on the bench?
Well, just sitting on the bench, end of the bench. There are kids coming out.
Yeah.
Great job. Don't know their name. Great job. Let's
right.
go. And after that game, the coach was like, "Hey, this is so crazy, but man, I'm about to take the Berkeley High job. Do you want to continue working with these young men the rest of the summer?" I'm like, whoa, like what?
This is all happening so fast, like.
Yeah, sure enough. And so I got to finish the rest of that summer working with the kids. And then, granted, I had my hoop dreams still in place to go play, and I thought it'd just be coach these kids and go.
It was kind of right after college then.
Yeah, right after college. Okay. Yeah, 2 years kind of removed, if
okay.
you will. So to be specific, 2000.
Okay.
Year 2000. So I just, the job was open, like the Redwood job was officially open, and I had, at least that point, a lot of support of obviously the student athletes and the parents, like, go for what you know. So that was my first, like, official interview process. Now, I was successful as the candidate winning the job, but looking back on it, man, just holy crap of not being prepared. Like, I've never been interviewed before, like, what questions they gonna ask? They're asking me stuff like, "So what's your basketball philosophy?" "We play hard." Okay, like can you say a little more, so that the people in the room, like, yeah, he means playing hard, So I was able to pick up with some of those cues, right? But I was like, oh my God, like, did I say something wrong?
Right.
So I ended up getting the opportunity to coach those young men at the time, and I launched my coaching career. So I was 2 years head coach at Redwood High School in Marin, and just speaking to you earlier, the surroundings of Marin, it's just like, man, this isn't Oakland, but we had success, went to the playoffs both years, and then that's when I kind of saw a career maybe staying in coaching, and so I got an opportunity to coach at the University of San Francisco.
Oh, cool.
Under Phil Matthews at the time, and that exchange was pretty straightforward. It was transactional, right? You coach here, you get to go to graduate school. So I'm like, okay,
let's do it.
But that sounds cool, but like where's the money, right? I mean, like, you get the free education. Like, how am I gonna eat? Oh no, we get you on a meal plan. I'm like, man, that's
so you doing college all, basically doing the whole 4 years over again. Basically.
Exactly. So made it work, and there was actually so I finished graduate school under that Coach Matthews, and we had a coaching transition, and I got to stay on for another year with Coach Evans, and so ended my USF coaching career after a 4-year stint. And I actually applied for the Contra Costa head coach job.
Oh,
That's why I was asking you, like, who's your coach at the time?
What year you applied for that?
That would have been 04.
Okay.
Yeah, 04, 05. Yeah, 05 to be exact.
Yeah.
06. Sorry, jeez.
Okay, yeah.
06.
Okay. I don't think the coach who I played for was there in 06.
Okay. Yeah. So all right. So I was saying, man,
no bad blood between that.
Yeah. No, but like
cool,
that was cool to kind of go through that process, if you will. But my former college coach, Todd Bozeman, he had to spend 10 years out of the profession with NCAA infractions. So he got his first job back in coaching at Morgan State back in Baltimore. Called me, hey man, I know you've been in the coaching. I would love to have you come home as an assistant. Now DC is Baltimore's not DC, and just like you probably offended if like San Francisco, Oakland, but all right, the DC area, right? Come back home. So I said yes to that. Coached a year at Morgan State. We had success there, going deep into our conference tournament. One game away from the NCAA tournament. But definitely set the foundation because the next 3 years they went to the tournament. 3 years.
Oh, wow. Were you
NCAA
part of that?
tournament. No, I had moved on. But,
Okay.
But just integral part of like saying laying that recruiting foundation.
Right.
Because when my first year there, we brought like 3 kids from California, 1 kid from Reardon High School, kid from Southern California. They were all league honors, and just helped put the program back on the map. So just bringing it full circle, playing, dipping into high school coaching, getting into the D1, and then having my last coaching year be at HBCU will always be special.
Oh, that's what's up, man. And then from after the HBCU, it kind of just, you figured like, oh, I have to kind of get on my business hype now, or was it still like, oh, I want to coach more, or what was it like after that?
I did miss a big step there, but so when I was at USF and doing that coaching transition, my role changed because I was a graduate assistant, in charge of, laundry, literally walking people to class, and, head coaches, administrative duties. It wasn't really too much coaching, but I always had a rapport with the players and the respect of the coaches because of my pedigree, right? But during that transition, I don't know if you've ever been a part of a coaching transition, but what most people are reflective of, they'll say that like all of a sudden these resources you didn't have appeared, right? All of a sudden you got a recruiting budget, whatever you're going to do to win. And, so our mantra was how can we compete with Gonzaga at the highest level? So we had to take a harder look at recruitment, expanding our budget, but really looking at our operational part, like, what technology we're using. Like, are we on cell phone, flip phones, or BlackBerry? I mean, all that was, looked at. And so the technology piece, we got introduced to this platform called Sports Code. I had no idea at the time that I would end up working at the company and all that. But I was given a laptop and was like, this is how we're going to start doing some digital scouting. And I was like, okay, cool. So we were on a recruiting trip from USF to De La Salle, from San Francisco to Concord. Even without traffic, that's about a solid hour, right? In the passenger seat, the associate head coach at the time was like, all right, I'm just going to set you up. I just want you to do offense and defense. And to be able to do that digitally, offense, defense, and clip it, man, I didn't want to go inside to like even see the prospects. I was just like, man, this is a game changer.
So it kind of just took over that technology side, just kind of took over right then and there.
I was always a little closet techie, but like that was a meeting of the minds for me. So I was able to, get a lot of experience the next 2 years as assistant coach, helping with our digital scouting strategy. So that's when I started to maybe, let's say, not knowing at the time, but through hands-on experience, understanding the foundation of analytics. I had no idea it would be a future landing spot for me, but that's what I was doing with as a coach. But what it taught me was I had, I just had different, reach to the kids right now. I can hold them a little more accountable, objectively and subjectively, right? All these kids want to come down and coach, man, y'all tripping, y'all ain't playing me. Okay, come in, we're gonna see only your turnovers, and you tell me if you would play you looking at that. And you do it in a way that's constructive, right? You don't want somebody to turn off, but you gotta have them that truth serum, like, hey man, this ain't about the other player, this is about you. And to get them, to really see that and work towards, getting better, the whole team improves. We did compete with Gonzaga and stuff like that. But where that became a big deal was I was able to take that technology to Morgan State, which was a budget level below USF, and get the coach like, hey man, we're really going to compete, take these guys to the next level. We need to invest in the technology part of it too. And that's when we had to tap into our Cal network, the Shareef and Jasons who were, playing in the league at the time. Donate to this program so we can get this, this product off the ground. So a year of that, and again, I already spoke to our success there. I just had a transition of like, okay, it was my decision to leave. I just said, hey, you know what? I don't know what I want to do, but maybe coaching is just, not in the cards for me. And I'm going to throw this name at you because he's a Bay Area guy too. Lloyd Pierce happened to be a coach at Santa Clara University, where he's an assistant coach, and we had spent the last 4 years together while I was at USF. He was in a weird last year where his coach had been a head coach for 30 years. They basically told them, man, unless you win a national championship, we're going to have a coaching change. So this is going to be a farewell tour for, and of course they were successful. They didn't win a national championship, but it made it hard for the administration to stick to that mandate.
Right.
But I remember having a conversation in Baltimore, and Lloyd was like, look, man, I'm out. I'm gonna be out of a job, and I'm gonna try to look to, see what I'm gonna do. And I was like, hey, man, put me in that category too. Like, I'm definitely leaving this Morgan State opportunity, but I don't know if I'm coming back to the Bay, staying out here.
Right.
And so the opportunity to work at that technology company presented itself because they were doing a conference out in San Francisco, and I was like, let me check it out. Came and checked it out, and the technology was, I told you I already had the connection with the technology, but I was honestly just fascinated of the lifestyle it presented. It was like, okay, you get to sell this technology to coaches and at all levels, and they was like, we get per diem, we get to expand. I was like, sign me up, right?
Sound like when you signed the dotted line for Cal.
Yeah, I was like, man, you know what?
Let's do it.
No harm. Let's try this, right? So that's when it started for me. Just having an opportunity to sell this platform to sports teams, and the last part of this was when I got the mandate to sell to the NBA teams. It was actually Brian Shaw, Oakland native, that helped me get access to the Lakers. So Brian was obviously coaching at the Lakers at that time. I don't know if he was coaching for sure. Phil Jackson was the head coach. And I'll never forget this. Met Brian at a bar in Manhattan Beach, and just the typical, yo, how you doing, young man? What you got going on? And I didn't know the elevator pitch, man. I'm just selling this cool technology, and coaches need to use it for scouting. He's like, well, let's get some drinks first, and I'll ask you that again. I messed it up. So he's like, look, man, how can I help? And I was like, look, man, I just honestly, a meeting with the Lakers could help. I don't know. And I said, look, all I can know is that, look, I won't embarrass you. Like, kind of got my stuff together, but like, please, cool. Now, the connection with Brian was when I was at Cal as a student athlete, I worked his camps back in the day. So we had a rapport, and he knew of my work ethic, just trustworthiness, et cetera. Man, so I'm quite sure you've been in your career, you meet contacts like that, and they promise you stuff like that, and it just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Brian called the next day. Like, that was on a Saturday. Called Sunday. Can you be down here on Monday? And I'm like, what? Like, sure.
Yeah.
I was living up in Camarillo at the time. I was like, yeah, we will be there. I called my boss. Like, man, like Lakers. Like, what? I was like, you doing the demo, but like, we're gonna get down there. So get down there. Brian introduced us to everyone. I remember Coach Jackson. What do we meet for?
You mean Phil Jackson?
Just the whole staff and all this stuff. It feels like, why am I in there? So my boss, hey, Coach, this is Phil takes off, and so we get to talk to the staff a little bit. So their video staff were the ones who, saw the promise of this, knew it was emerging technology, and knew, it could only enhance the stuff they were doing. So they took us up on a trial, and we had to support the trial, make sure all the equipment worked and stuff. And they gave a thumbs up that they wanted to buy it, right, or they wanted to go with it. This was my first business lesson, right, where successful trial, managing operation. They were like, all right, we're the Lakers, give this to us. I'm like, man, it's like, I gotta eat. Like, what? Brian, like, they don't want to buy this. Right. They're the Lakers. They're telling us, give this to us or else. I'm like, man. So again, Brian to the rescue. I remember him calling Mitch Kupchak, the GM, was like, look, man, this family here, man, like, we got to find a way to make this work. So not only did they come full circle, they paid full freight for it. Wow. That set us up with so much credibility because the year they bought it, they won the championship, and so that was part of our story, right? Wow. We sold stuff to the Lakers. We were part of that championship run, and rah. Wow. So every team from there on, we had no problem with the wheeling and dealing. Right. Like, this is the cost, and we're going to get paid. I actually have a question for you, and maybe the audience listen. We sold to every single team with the exception of one. Do you know who that team is?
I'm not gonna say the Warriors because they pretty much.
It's not the Warriors. I wouldn't do that to you. It's not the Warriors.
Except for one. Let me see.
I'll give you one. If you want one, I'll give you one hint.
Yeah, give me a hint.
All right, Shark Tank.
Oh, math.
Yeah, man.
Is there a reason why they didn't buy it?
Well, Mark Cuban was an investor in one of our competitors, and so it was just.
I was thinking something like that because Mark Cuban's such a in the tech world, so he's like, I'm not gonna support this.
So there's a story connected to that
That's
because of that, I used to tell people we sold to 99% of the NBA teams, and that's not true because 29 out of 30 is not 99%, it's 97%.
So technically,
people get like, look, we had every team but one, right? So people are like, 99. So yeah,
that's super funny. So, but it sounds like leading up to that point, though, it sounds like a lot of just your connections have got you just through and just like flowed you up to this point you are at now. So, and we were talking about earlier. I was just realizing that I'm trying to keep a good network around me just to make sure I want to have that same flow as well.
Sure.
I don't want to have to, I don't know, not to say have to, but I don't want to deal with people personalities I don't need to deal with.
Sure.
In my search for success, I guess you could say.
Yeah, but only kind of caution I would say to that, it kind of works both ways, right? I'm giving you the positive, results of having a strong network, but you got to invest in that network too, because if people see you're only taking from it like anything else, that's just a natural. They're gonna shut down and not want to help you. So I would say, if you really care and about your teammates and people, you got to spend the time. Like it does mean stuff. Check in on their birthdays or when they're winning. Great job, not losing. Hang in there because when shit hits the fan, you need people to step up sometime. So I make no mistake about it. It is a big deal about who you know. But I've started to really understand it's about what you know too and who knows you.
Wow.
Because people can have success and kind of forget about you too. That's why I'm saying you always have to be mindful of reinvesting and kind of stay connected. And that's hard. I mean, some people do it naturally. I would say myself does. And but some people can be a little not receptive. They feel like you're just staying in touch with them because you're hoping that. But we had been in the trenches like you said, so at least some of those former teammates were just helpful for me and respect to the industry. Just saying, look, Anwar's a good dude, like let him in to at least do a demo, and that's where I said I had to step up. I couldn't just say Brian got me this opportunity. I had to be prepared and kind of over deliver. But that's why I fast forward to what I'm doing now. Mentoring is a big piece to what we do, and I spend a lot of time with these young, African American males to challenge them on that. You got to be true to yourself. Your reputation has to precede yourself. Just like if you have a bad reputation, people are not going to mess with you. But you have a good reputation, people want to support you and give you chances.
Right, and that's a lot. I feel like that's one thing as a young African American male growing up in Oakland that I kind of was missing, like is the mentorship. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Just like I was telling you earlier, I love basketball. Like it's one of kept me out of a lot of trouble growing up. I was pretty good at it. You know what I mean? And just like I said, growing up, I didn't realize how much politics was in basketball. And nobody taught me that. I didn't too young to notice it, and just growing up through the ranks. So. That's why I'm really encouraged to see the work that you're doing now with team, just because I feel like I relate to the youth that you're working with now.
Sure.
When I was done playing basketball after my junior college years, I was like, man, what am I gonna do now? I shed a few tears, thinking about me not playing organized basketball no more, knowing I have to kind of get out in the business world, and I always knew it was gonna be some type of entrepreneurial. Something for me, but I didn't know what, and I did not know that I could get to the league through another source,
avenue,
another avenue, as such as being an agent, or I seen that you do a lot of work with video coordinators and stuff like that. So I didn't know about those entry level jobs into those things. So if you don't mind telling us a little bit about that and just about team,
Sure.
Yeah.
And so team actually, started doing that process again with Brian Shaw making a connection to the Lakers and having a successful sale. So you can imagine, my job for the 5 years from that point was to travel to see every NBA team and, pitch the product or whatever, if you will. But as I had success doing that, I had this, front seat view of the operation side. So every video coordinator that I was selling to on the team side was not a minority. I mean, zero for 30, including them. We tried with the Mavs, but just wasn't a brother in that video spot. And And I'm not gonna say that was just alarming, right? I had no concern. I'm like, damn, this is crazy. Like, I like hoop, and I'm quite sure you like hoop. Like, and I knew how the technology worked. I'm like,
especially with the NBA being 80% or however many percent it is, African American. You know what I mean? So it's kind of weird that it's not like in these entry level jobs that it's not more African Americans.
So again, that was obvious, but I made the connection that entry level job of video coordinator was not rocket science, right? Like if you knew the game and you could, watch offense, track off, I'm just like, this is a natural flow for us. And so because I became a trusted resource as I started to sell those teams, there was an awakening going around the league. We need to diversify our video staffs and stuff. So I became a trusted resource from head coaches around the league. Anwar, we're about to have this opening. You got anybody in mind? And that's why I was like, oh shit, like I don't have any brothers in mind, but like let me figure this out.
Wow.
So while I was full-time doing the job for the company Sports Tech at the time, I made it possible to have minorities access to this really, really expensive platform. And it wasn't so much as giving you the laptop and access to it, but I spent personal time just understanding what you didn't understand from a framework, right? Like, okay, look, you're gonna have different skill sets than the next person, but tell me what, how do you see yourself working in the league, right? So I would try to focus that on, getting you understanding how the technology worked, but in the context of a workflow, an NBA workflow, right?
Kind
and
of
your roles,
day-to-day.
exactly. Your role is going to be, you get to travel on the team, playing and all that, but you got to be up at 2 or 3 in the morning or live at the game breaking this shit down, and you have to, be accountable for that. So in that process over a 5-year period, like really helping, giving a lot of minorities access. So I'm proud to say, as a result of that investment, about 90 people got opportunities to work in the league, right? Like literally in that video coordinator space, or if not in video coordinator space, while they were coaching, got the digital technology on their side. And so what that started to snowball for me was as, let's say, a black video coordinator moved up, well, guess what? They wanted to reach back and
bring someone up.
Because I was seeing that happen on the other side of it, where if a non-black person had the video coordination job, they got an advancement or moved on, they bring in their friends into the fold. So we had a nice run with, kind of getting people on, having a pipeline ready, and this was all with no public support. It wasn't like the NBA was behind it. It was, I call it underground video railroad, video coordination.
The way to get in.
Yeah, exactly. How can we do that? But the turning point was, I'm definitely celebrating it from the minority, push, if you will. But none of that would have been possible if I didn't have what I call white allyship, because there were still white GMs that had to sign off on this, and coaches, and just had that, had that open-mindedness that this is an opportunity to, diversify our staffs, et cetera. So again, for me, right place at the right time to, start like a movement, if you will. And so where team got started was because I saw the success of let's say younger adults taking on this mentoring and landing these jobs. Why can't we start earlier, reaching young people like yourself in high school with just that, kind of focus? And of course, you can't go from high school to the league, but just to know that you can do that.
There's a way to do it if you especially if you're playing the sport, that there's another avenue to get to the league.
Absolutely.
That would give me, and I know a lot of folks I know, so much encouragement, what I mean?
Yeah.
To just keep it going and don't be discouraged by anything, you know what I mean? So that and it really big ups to you, my man, for finding the system, sort of say, of how to get minorities into the league, I guess. You know what I mean? And so when I was reading about you, or just no, because like I said, I got other friends that know you, and they were telling me your story, and I was like, man, that is so encouraging. It makes me want to figure out how I can help the youth and help them with the exposure, especially people in the sports world. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So what does TEAM stand for?
Oh, so TEAM stands for technology, exposure, and access to mentoring, and that's where we're grounded, right? Because back to that video coordinator kind of experience or aha moment, it really broke down to me it was lack of exposure.
Right.
Exposure to what? Technology, right?
As I was telling you earlier.
Yeah,
that's
exactly. So technology exposure piece. But the mentoring stuff was like the next level stuff because, you know, you really had to, you know, just have people understand like the culture of the NBA, right? Like, I mean, it's, you know, just like a player that's not professional about stuff, you know, you're in the league and you're out the league. So just really spend that time to understand the responsibility that goes with those jobs.
Right.
And to have like successful people, you know, that started with me that were in the league that could really support that.
Right.
You know, it was kind of lock and step that like that's what you were signing up for. And so really lucky that of all the people that I'm representing, that 90 people, like, and of those 90, I have it broken down in terms of, you know, percentages. 70% were African American, you know, 20% were, you know, non-African American. 4% were women, so
so all walks of life.
Yeah, exactly.
All walks of
So
life
again, that's why I knew I was on something that was, you know, honestly sustainable, right?
Wow.
Like it wasn't going to be like, oh my God, you're only trying to help, you know, your people.
Yeah.
And the cool thing, it was like, you know, I had brothers hiring others and others hiring brothers,
Right.
and the rest, you know, kind of filling in. So I made the point of how like this was like a big leap with team to start at high school, focus on the league. But back on the company business side of it, just like we sold to all the NBA teams, we hit a home run selling all the college teams, so the, you know, the Cal Berkeleys and the Stanford. So we had about 90% of that market share, you know, just so these young people that were in high school that, you know, couldn't make it to those levels, that was yet an opportunity for them to do some meaningful stuff at the collegiate level in the video coordination realm as well. But where this took a turn for the better with team was this was so focused on getting people a job, economic, you know, empowerment, you know, equity to access and all that stuff. But where I didn't see the bigger vision was understanding how I'm going to teach you, brand new off the street, this whole process, this way of the world. You know, I didn't really know what curriculum meant. I was like, you got to, you know, put this down on paper, because I was just coming in like, man, turn on a laptop, hit the power button, watch what I'm doing. So I'm like, okay, great. What happens if you get hit by a bus? Like, we got to. I'm not going to hit you by a bus. No, you got to put it down, right? Yeah. So when I started to, you know, understanding, you know, how to, you know, write down the process, if you will, develop a curriculum, that's when the light bulbs went off that this was so connected to, like, you know, STEM concepts, right? You know, this whole notion of like, all right, how are you going to, you know, collect data? You're going to break it down. You're going to process it. And that was just, you know, it had so many tentacles to career readiness, you know, getting, you know, challenging kids around critical thinking, automation as we know it. And so, yeah, to this day, we still celebrate kids coming through team, getting job placements. We have so many wonderful stories of like entrepreneurship with these kids, like, you know, they have this, you know, thirst of understanding now what artificial intelligence is. And so we do a pretty good job of just laying that foundation piece of like what is so possible. And so today we celebrate, if you want to get in video coordination, great. If not, you can, you know, get started, you know, in web design, market. It's just, it's crazy to see how it's really connected
so
to a
many
lot
different
of stuff.
things you can do nowadays. It's just a plethora of things.
Exactly.
They call you the Godfather of analytics. Tell me, what is the importance of, you know, data and analytics and stuff like that? Like, can you give me like a little insight about that?
Yeah, so you know, it was a hidden gem, right? Of like, I didn't really know what data was or the promise of it. So I always like to share the context of like how it relates to sports. Baseball became the first sports that started introducing data, and it was called Moneyball. And
I was about to say, is that Moneyball?
Here with the A's, right? So that's, I always, like, that was always my premise of understanding what it was. And so it was just a way of like, you know, like literally, like if you're putting a team together and going back to Moneyball, it was like how many times you're gonna, we're gonna keep a written track of how many times that you are at bat with situational stuff, and we're gonna, you know, just do basic percentages. If you at bat 4 times, you hit once, it's 25%, right?
Right.
And just seeing how that was computed over the league average, now you start to see patterns and like, okay, this team that won the World Series, that person in the 3rd spot was batting 250, and so like, so now these kind of nerds behind the scenes were having influence of like, you know what, we're gonna go to that little, you know, junior college because he's in the 3rd spot batting 250. And so, you know,
that detailed.
But again, just follow like how basic it is in terms of a concept. And of course, there are complexities on that, but just going back to the foundation piece. And so when I understood that, and again, focusing it back on my curriculum, I'll give an example of like a standard team curriculum, and we can talk about the Warriors in that context. So we make it project-based because I want to challenge these young people to discover stuff, right? You know the final score, but I want you to be able to tell me the final score, the results, based on data. Like how did the Warriors do this, and what patterns did you unlock? And so one thing we challenged the students with is that 2015 to 2018, when I'm saying the Warriors had their most success, including with KD and those guys, they came up with a metric or a KPI, and in the data analytics world, that's a key performance indicator. When the Warriors had 300 passes or more, they won about 92% of the time. So think about that correlation, like pass the ball, we win. Pretty straightforward. Right. But we started to break that down. That's when you have to put on your analytics hat, right? So if the goal is to get 300 passes, you being a former player, we both know, man, you coming up the court passing back and forth, that's bullshit, right?
Yeah.
It has to be passes, entry level, like you have to qualify the passes, right? It has to be legitimate passing. So just imagine having to, define what that is and count, right? With the goal to be 300. And so if you look at 300 and you think about even NBA game over 4 quarters, the benchmark is 75 passes by the end of the first quarter to keep you on track, right? So now you're going to start having these conversations. Imagine you get the end of the first quarter, you're the Warriors, and you know the 300 is that magic number, and you're at 15 passes. What do you think the coaches are going to be saying?
Pass the ball more.
Pass the goddamn ball. You guys are being selfish.
Wow.
But you're the Warriors. 'Cause now let's say we're still in that same first quarter, and it's 15 passes, but they're up 15. Like, you're like, huh?
Like, as an analytical person, that kind of mess your mind up. Like, during the game, can I?
Well, my point is, like, I was challenging you, like, pull out that skill set. You have to interpret those nuances, right? So, you saw it firsthand. If I said the goal was 75 passes, but we're at 15, but then I threw a wrench. Like, well, what if you have 15 passes and you're still winning? Well, what's the goal of the game? You want to win, right?
Right.
So what that would speak to is that now you look at the Warriors personnel. You got KD, Steph, Clay. They probably weren't rebound or got a rebound, fast break, pull up, shooting threes. So you have to factor that type of stuff in.
Okay.
And so where we kind of sticking with that same example, we introduce concepts of coding and all that. Is that 75 per quarter, but then how are we going to tell a story on like total passes? In a first quarter, but then breaking that down on a possession by possession. Right. So now you're looking at basic math concepts, right? Like they have X amount of passes times X amount divided by X amount of possessions. That's going to yield your passes per possession. Now, if you're looking at that number, the coach can really have a good idea of how you're playing, right? So in basketball, if you're averaging about 3 passes a possession, regardless of the score, that's a pretty good indicator the ball's moving, right? But if anything lower than that, we
should be moving a little bit more.
We should be moving a little more, right? But then I got to challenge the young people. That's great.
And they get all this data in the game.
No, they got to create it. They got they got to be ready to number crunch, right? And so then that's a good example. Like, all right, if I'm telling you that's all you have to do if you're right, but let's say after 5 possessions, you could probably stop all that. What happens when you get to possession 40 and you have to have that calculation? Like, you can't keep up on your hands like that.
Right.
So what are you going to do, right? So to me, that's a good, introduction to coding, or how are you going to transcribe that data, right? So you write program in the background. Like, every time there's a pass, we're going to keep it just
right. Okay.
Yeah. So that's my way of just relating it to basic math. So these kids that struggle in algebra and geometry, I'm like, man, there's a future in this if you. Stick with it, get with it, not stick with it, get with it.
Even that basic concept right there is kind of like, it's enough to just entice you to
you just stick
around.
What is this?
Like, damn, like it's a lot, but it's basic.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? By just like kind of, like you said, if you learn the background of everything, it's kind of.
And then what I love connecting these opportunities to like folks from our community is that like, I can be real with outcomes, right? So I'm saying, like, all right, imagine you having this skill set and you're working with the Warriors doing that championship run, whatever. So I can have evidence of how young brothers look like us, became millionaires. That was their role, breaking down the film and having those skill sets. An example I like to use is that, video coordinator, for even a team like the Warriors may make, let's say, $100,000 a year, right? So we're talking about that 4-year window where they were making $100,000 a year. That's $400,000, right? Even though I just said $1 million, they're like, well, we're missing something here, right? So, but that's your base salary, but the team won the championship during those years. So if they won in the championship, they get in the ring, they get in the bonus, and let's say that bonus is $250 each year.
Even
right?
the video coordinators?
Yeah, the video coordinators, yeah.
Like that?
Yeah, they got the email addresses that's,
Wow.
rebounding before the games, but back in that, in the locker room, breaking that down.
It really is a team effort. Really a team effort. Now I'm thinking
So
about
when people started to make those connections, like I said, man, it's about get with it, man. It ain't about this is. And if you don't, man, challenge our community. We can't feel sorry for ourselves, right? Like, I'm from the community. I'm saying, like, get with this.
Right.
Like this ain't like that choice, But all I try to like level set today is that, that sounds great, but I still think we dealing with this challenge of like, people can show our young people a demonstrative way how to get with it to hoop, like, or to play football, like the physical attributes of it. We're still hedging on like this tech piece or, the operation side of it. Like, how can we, develop those technologies? How can we be the operatives of those technologies and,
and just it's more opportunity with those things rather than just trying to dribble a ball or catch it, make a touchdown. You know what I mean? So
exactly. The odds are against you, right? Like now we
right.
can put it back to it's odds, right? Like you have more chances to successfully be on the operations side than you do playing for the Warriors.
Right.
I mean that's just it's straightforward, right? So
it most definitely is. And then so besides going through team, how can a kid like myself growing up, figure out the video coordinating role and stuff like that? Like, what type of career do I need to go have, or like what do I need to study to go be a video coordinator or get like an entry level into those like NBA, NFL jobs and stuff like that?
Yeah, so it's definitely your network. I mean, like we can't skip that steps. You definitely got to know people, but that's a part of our like design of meeting the community where they're at. So we're saying there's no prerequisite to join a team boot camp or to get that that stripped down version of what it would be like. So there's no prerequisite that you don't have to have any skills, even though I'm saying no skills, but at least come in the door, at least knowing baseline sport rules, right? Like what basketball is, what's a 2-pointer, what's a 3-pointer. So we're going to start with those baseline to, unpack your knowledge. So like we make it affordable, we make it, level one, if you will, and, and like anything else, people that are interested, they stick with it, they get with it, and those are the ones we churn out. So yeah.
How has COVID? Because it sounds like to me like team is a lot of in person, face to face, dealing with folks. How has COVID kind of changed that model?
Yeah, with COVID, we had our oh crap moment too because we were only in person, high touch. We had a 12-week kind of commitment for our young people. And that was a big part of our kind of draw, too, because if you were successful in our 12-week program, whether it was the fall or the spring, you were eligible through a free sponsorship trip. We would take the kids to the NBA Summer League, and again, activating that network, we could place those teams and those young people in internships, for a weekend at the Summer League. And so imagine that was the real life example. You're going to be competing for these high impact jobs, whatever, but what better way to start that process as early as possible in high school or college. So COVID hits and we got the, stay in place, shut down like everyone else. Luckily for us, we always had this kind of strategic plan of like, how could we expand more outside of Oakland, our reach? And online it just made sense, but we were rolling, being in person. So we literally had to figure out a way to, through platforms like Zoom, whatever, how are we going to get this curriculum / experience online? And that was a game changer. I'm talking like I didn't see a lot that came from that coming. But the minute we got online, we had more reach outside of Oakland. Like literally back in Washington, D.C., where I'm from, Toronto, I mean, it was just crazy. Like people was just my God, we got to keep our brains going. Like, how can we?
I know you felt good getting that back out to where you're
absolutely,
from.
Absolutely. Because it was a challenge before that, right?
Right.
Like, man, we want to invest in your program. How can we get boots in the ground in DC? Well, you got to have an office space. You got to do this. But online just made it a little more easier. And then I wasn't competing with anything novel because everybody was trying to figure out, like, how can you keep students engaged online, et cetera, et cetera. So we got more online, more exposure, and insert some of the social impact issues, George Floyd and, you know, corporations really saying we need to invest in these minority communities around equity and access to education, technology, you know, education and all that. We were just this shiny object that made a lot of sense for people to step up, you know. And so kudos to the NBA. They made a significant investment in us, you know, financially to, you know, invest in our, you know, operational costs, right? Like, you know, they call it general operating, like what, your capacity building, how can you know, take this to a whole nother level? So thankful to them, the partners at Google, you know, like I say, the big boys and girls, you know, kind of stepped up. And more importantly, our community partners, whether it's the K-Port Center, you know, local entities, you know, people led with support versus a lot of questions. And so, COVID saved us. Right,
most definitely. Like with COVID, like it can either something good came out of it or something bad came out of it. I can't sit here and think everything was good. Any setbacks for you?
I would say no. The setbacks is.
Or did you kind of roll with the setbacks? Kind of, you know what I mean? Everybody turn some people turn negative to a positive, you know.
Well, here's my corny attempt to explain it through pop culture. I'm not calling it a setback, but more money, more problems. You know, so, you know, now we're online. It's like, okay, you know, how do you scale staying online? And now we're opening back up. How do you, you know, combine these two programs? You know, so like I'm saying that's a good problem, but that's a challenge for us going forward. You know, so we have to hire and kind of get ahead of some of that, and, you know, use predictive models to, you know, figure out what's the next strategic move and all this.
And especially with everything's opening up back so fast all of a sudden, you know what I mean, and everything getting back to some type of normalcy. So I can't see how that, like, trying to ramp everything back up and get, it can be a challenging setback for you.
Exactly. So I was saying I don't see that as a negative, but if I had to,
it's almost a good problem.
Yeah, it's a great problem.
Most definitely.
But if you know anybody can do that, tell them how.
I got you. I'm gonna keep my eyes to the ground. What is next for team?
You know, so we figured out the basketball space because I would say I came in as the basketball subject expert, but it just makes so much sense to you know, stay in this sports space and focus, for example, on soccer, right? Like that's, I think that content speaks to a demographic of young folks that have this same, you know, challenge that other minorities have, right? So to connect our curriculum to soccer, I think we can tap more into the Latinx movement. But because we're dealing with sports and the gender equity issue around equal pay and all that, you know, I think the sky's the limit for us, meaning the next steps to really, you know, in a very demonstrative way, bring even more women into this conversation because there are a lot of these young women are on fast tracks to land jobs in the league, and what better way to have a small part in preparing them for that, right? Make sure they have the skill set. And because they have the skill set, it should be no issue on day one with that equal pay nonsense, because I know a lot of women still deal with that to this day. Yeah, they may get the same opportunity, but you know what? You don't have the experience as your male counterpart. We're going to start you off a little lower. You know, we, in a small way, feel we address that head on, as an example.
That's super inspiring to hear. Pause real quick. I'm sorry. My mom's calling me. Did you talk about that? Yeah, we got. My mom still got her son. So what kind of parting words do you have for, you know, just the community, anybody just trying to, you know, figure out another way besides, you know, dribbling the ball or, you know, catching a touchdown or doing stuff like that? What is your, you know, your end advice for everybody?
So my end advice is, you know, we got to keep dreaming, we got to keep fighting, but, you know, make no mistake about it, there are resources available to take that next step. So team is a small part of this. You have other nonprofit entities in this space like the Hidden Genes process. They really focus on entrepreneurship and, tech development. You have, Black Girls Code. So, but most importantly, you have these corporate entities, whether it's Apple, Google, et cetera, kind of backing our communities with those resources, right? They want to invest in communities that are going out to the communities that these Boys and Girls Club and saying like, hey, we can provide these services that have nothing to do with the playing, playing on the field. And so that's not so much just an after school space, but, supporting our school districts to, include, this type of curriculum, in their computer technical programs, et cetera. So the moment is now, though. The moment is now for leaders to step up and really just, get on platforms like this and speak about it, right? Just like I could tell you there's going to be a Nike tournament, top 100 kids down at, Soldier Town. We know how our community will react to that, so we just need to do more of that, really promote these educational opportunities. And what better platform through our athletes or our ambassadors from the communities.
Right, most definitely.
Yeah.
How would you say somebody can access, like, what would somebody have to do to get access to an Apple or Google or something like that who are looking to fund, community projects?
Yeah, so we try to address that twofold, and it's a challenge in real time. So we offer our program cost-free to the community. So you go on our website, you can sign up for a course. Now, if you do it that way, you do have to have a Mac computer. If you don't have the Mac computer, as we continue to open up, we will have resource centers around the city where you can come in person and, use the Mac, while you take the program. So that's our best, effort to meet this challenge. And that's when, like the Googles and the Microsofts of the world can help us from, financial support to provide those facilities and devices. But so that's our way of saying we can meet students offline at no charge, but online. So if you're online, you do have to have a Mac computer to take our course. So.
Okay. Hey, it's been an honor and a pleasure, man, to learn and talk to you, my man. I know where I can find you at. They know where they can find you at. Tell the folks who don't know where they can find you at, where they can find you at. IG or just website or anything. Yeah,
so our website is www.weareteaminc.org. So that's WEARETEAMINC.org. So We Are Team Inc. Is also our IG and Twitter handle as well.
Okay.
So, follow us, and we are always constantly putting programs and access to us out on those platforms.
Most definitely. And what about you have a personal IG or just?
Yeah, my personal IG is A McQueen14.
Okay.
And my Twitter is Team Q.
Okay. Cool.
Team Q. Yep.
Hey, I appreciate you, my man. If you guys like this episode or like what we're doing here, like, comment, subscribe, and tell a friend. Again, man, appreciate you, and I know we'll talk again.
Thank you for having me.
Most definitely. Got to do the little, like a little walk. So now I know Chef got something whipped up for us. You want to go over and head over to the bar and see what's up?
What are the analytics?
Hey,
is 50-50 a good drink?
Yes, sir. Let's do it, man.
There we go. Let's go.
Now we're here with Chef. Man, tell us what we got, my man.
Chef.
Welcome to Sober Mesa. This is the venue right here. So we're doing a little rum tasting for you.
Okay.
For our special guest. I know you're a fan of my other place, Alomar.
Yes.
Always the noodles and stuff. No butter. But one time I introduced you to a rum that we blended here at Sober Mesa. That's very special. You really enjoyed. So I want to show you a little different style of rums. And that's what's special about our rum selection. We definitely promote the diaspora.
Okay.
There's rums from the Caribbean. We have African rums. Things that relate to our community.
Yep.
That's really special. The first one I want you to taste is St. Penelvin's. This is a Clinton, which is a Haitian rum. Very different, very rare. And Haitian rum is really delicious. Made with a lot of fresh sugar cane, but there's botanicals in it. Think almost like gin, but not as strong. It's done in a clay pot.
Man.
All these like spices and Haitian rum's very underrated, but there's so much flavor in that.
This hits.
Yeah,
Right.
most definitely getting the right space. So try a
Yeah,
pepper.
try it.
Right?
So we have some beautiful toppings for you. We have blistered Padron peppers from Mexico, made with a yam romesco, peri peri, which is an African sofrito, and some black sea salt.
So with food etiquette, I'm a copycatter. So
So
Eat the hands. You got some utensils.
there we go.
yeah, so I'm going with hands.
Padrones too. Out of the bunch, there might be a few that are spicy.
Okay.
Not supposed to be. But if it is, dip it to our special.
I'm gonna dip it in already. So
Yeah, that's the yeah.
sure. I think I got a little
I
spicy.
think I got the spice one already before.
But hey,
Definitely, you still have a little bit of the rum. Try the rum with the pepper too.
I got a little sweet. I got a little swizzle right here.
I want you to move on to the next one. This one's special to me because I am Dominican. This is a Dominican rum from my motherland, from my home country. This is a Brugal 1888. It's aged for about 12 years. It's really delicious in American oak, fresh sugar cane, a little bit of molasses. You're gonna find caramel, almost like flavors that you'll find on cognac or bourbon.
Okay.
It's in this beautiful rum. So, cheers.
I'm already a fan of this one. I had it once or twice before, so cheers.
Cheers, man. Okay. So you're a fan of it. Okay.
Yeah, I'm a fan of it for sure. It's smoother than that one for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is sweeter, same kick though.
Yeah.
Yeah. See
Woo!
Well, that one was spicy. That was I can do
I
that
think
one.
I think
I can do that one.
I can go either way, but this one has like a little sweetness. to it.
Yeah,
A
for
little
sure.
sweet.
Dominicans, we love our things sweet, so everything we do. But that's a beautiful rum that we always use and drink during special occasions.
Okay. Nice.
Special occasion.
I
Very
can
different from the
get
Haitian.
for sure.
Yeah, and it's crazy to see they're all in the same country, half and half, right? It's just different styles for our rums. The
Got it.
same sugar cane.
Oh,
Oh wow. Okay.
So
Yeah.
it's just regarding the techniques.
Okay.
Definitely with the Haitian side, more of the French style
Okay.
techniques
Yeah.
in their anything they make. Us, but more of the Spanish and African side. You'll find on the next one too. This is a Dr. Bird Jamaican rum. This is considered pot still rum.
Okay.
So it's also aged just like Dominican rum, but it's also everything was cooked off the sugar cane in a pot.
Got it. Okay. So
But all the sugar cane, everything is cooked off in a pot. So you get these like clay. You're gonna get the aromas of clay,
Yeah, I was gonna say.
volcano from the soil, and then a little bit of sweetness from a little slight aging. Not much.
You described it just how it smelled
Yeah.
for real.
for our audience, man, I've had a history of being a lightweight, so so far, so
Cheers, though, man.
cheers again, man.
Want you to leave sober, so
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. Came sober, left sober.
Ooh,
Yeah, so
how
they're
much you
different
selling the bottle
styles,
for?
and it's all from the same cane, same Caribbean islands.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
So it's amazing to see different techniques. That's what's special about our back bar. There's so many different kinds. You might go somewhere, it's a rum
It
bar,
wasn't spicy.
but everything is so different.
Okay. Gotcha,
You're not
man.
gonna find the same flavors. So it's all telling a different story. And now to that, we're gonna do a cocktail. with a rum.
Okay.
So one of my favorites, going back to Jamaica, is plantation rum. But this one is infused with pineapple.
Okay.
But don't think of it as like a pineapple rum where it's
not
like
pineapple.
super sweet
Okay.
like some other brands. This is just like the skins really infused there for days. And there's a special pineapple that's grown in United Kingdom. So it's not the sweet pineapples we are used to. It's very different. A little more kind of floral, a little more, or more on the aromatics. You guys fans of old fashions?
Yeah, I most definitely am.
Yeah?
I most definitely am.
Second that.
Taking that? Make a little extra so I can have some too. Well, this rum is absolutely delicious. Great for sipping too, but great in a nice like traditional cocktail. I'm gonna add some bitters. No, this one's fantastic. More of a aromatic bitters to add a little extra aroma, and also a few spices too.
Okay.
So delicious. I'm gonna chill this. So I added some spice honey in there too. So this is inspired by Mama Juana, which is a special moonshine made in the Dominican Republic. Use a lot of honey, use a tad of red wine, but we're gonna get the red wine from the bitters.
I see. I like your technique. Just nothing's moving but the wrist.
Yeah, and I'm a chef, man. But, you know, I've been learning.
Yeah, me too.
But like cooking.
Break the glass or something, you know.
But yeah, I've been getting really into the cocktail game for the last few years. That's why I opened Soda Mesa. But you know, I've been a chef for over 20 years, But it's just like cooking, just using liquids.
Okay, just using liquid.
But it's really fun for me, you know, so. Look how gorgeous that looks.
That pepper was on point, man.
Most definitely was the sauce.
All right. Well, I'm gonna do special here. I'm gonna burn some rosemary. I like to do things a little fancy here. Sort of missing.
Appreciate it, my man.
So a little Dominican Caribbean style old fashioned, plantation rum, spice honey, burnt rosemary. Cheers, enjoy.
All right, cheers, my man. Cheers to you. Thanks for tapping in, my man.
Thank you. Thank you for the invite. Yeah.
Appreciate you again, Chef.
Thank you, Chef.
I smelled that pineapple as soon as I like.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah. I
As soon as
taste
I-
it. Yeah.
yeah.
So, all right. I like this one best.
This
It's
is
because I think because of the pineapple.
Hey man, if y'all haven't tried it, please do. Come to Sobre Mesa. They're back open. We're back open. Let's get it, man. Tap in.
And this was woo.
Yeah,
This is the best of the best.
Thank you.
And this is round 4.
Chef, I'm gonna have to order this next time I come in,
Yeah.
man. Most definitely.
Get rid of the bottom. You got this clear block.
But that makes okay, got okay.
First reason from top to really dope. Yeah.
Something you just thought about, like,
Twist.
give them different notes in there.
How's yours? But cheers, my brother. It's an honor to have
Cheers.
you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Always support.
Gonna you, my man.
No, thank you. Thank you, bro.
Cheers, my man. Couldn't do it without you, man.
Hey, you know, I know you're not drinking, so I didn't make you one, but
Bro,
too much yesterday.
I forgot. Hey, I swear to God, I forgot you was here, bro. He was hella quiet back there.
Beginning of the year, he told me no more shots in it every time,
Every
every
time
Sunday.
he thinks-
So,